they keep me singing, yo. Why you they call me, yo? I even like tired. So baby, take my number. All the time. Me, I want to be your lover. Call me later.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for being here physically, even when we are going to have a greater discussion of this online. So we have about 3 minutes to go. Thankfully, all our cameras are in front, so we won't need to get worried about anyone crisscrossing and killing us short or something like that. So we will be going. For those who are here, I want to believe that we know the hashtags. Please, let's keep those statements going on with the hashtags, with the pictures, the hashtags to Tamblefena and hashtag Get Empowered. Let's continue pushing those and also tagging as many people. We have a few minutes to remind others that we can be able to start. But when we do, I don't think we will have any sort of Q&A from in here. But well, if we have, we will be able to get a bit of the questions from in-house, and then we will have a bit more online. We know that this was scheduled for 7 to 8, but we made push up a little, about 20 max 30 minutes, so by 8:30 we should have closed each and everything, both online and both here physically as well. So in 2 minutes we'll be going live. Thank you.
Call me later. Me, I want to be your lover. Oli chibiriti wakubisa mutima ndikuma vivyo mukwano gwochanga kayembe wankubisa butida ochakala nyone mamalodi bebe osiba muchikuba kasana kaka ndikuma vivyo mukwano gwocha omawobulire obasentononya wano muchikunta tenti waliwe chipuzo bono sala kochenti city boy baby beaty kind of villain chimanyo kutekushua.
Day where you did set your alarm, it is exactly 7 p.m. and we want to go straight into our financial wellness class. How beautiful it is to have it at a time when everyone's answer, when you get to ask them, what's wrong, you're lost or something, they will say economy. That's the new default answer for each and everyone. And we're talking about monies. Of course, the biggest story for the media in the last few hours has been about Uganda. You know, the government of Uganda getting to borrow from within. Then comes in the discussion of, aren't we out competing the private sector? But there is a lot to talk about money. Today, we want to talk about your financial well-being. You have the doctors talking about, you know, your health and lifestyle. You have the pastors talking about your spiritual well-being, but we want to bring the people who speak the language that even the child, the little child at home understands, especially if they have a piggy bank. We're talking investments, we're talking insurance. Insurance being one of the things that everyone is excited to talk about, but a few people are happy to uptake. You know, we all want to know that at some point in time when things are not going right, you can be able to have a fallback position. But unfortunately, sometimes you never take that leap of faith or the action point to be able to actualize that. So we're going to be talking about, I know many of you have had bank assurance, and you're asking, seems to be quite a big word, but we'll get to understand that it's just a joiner of bank and insurance, and now seeing banks, which we used to know as, go take your money, keep it there, find a loan, and probably be able to withdraw. Banks now getting to spread their wings to provide a little much more than you taking your money for them to keep it, or you getting a loan from them, and then at a later stage having that kind of relationship. With a digital era, with the world now becoming a global village, there is a lot of solutions that you can be able to get, and especially, of course, digital and financial solutions as well. And when we talk about the aspect of insurance, one would ask that, is it anywhere in the law? Is it being supported by the law? Definitely in 2016, if you do remember, the Financial Institutions Amendment Act did provide for the introduction of bank assurance in Uganda, which I talked about much earlier on. So if you go to your bank and you're being introduced to a bit of insurance talk, do not get perplexed about what is happening in the bank. That's being able to give you a lot more than you would probably be able to expect. So we'll be delving deeper into that. We know that banks probably can be able to provide insurance of various, so many other insurance sector players, or one bank could decide to say, no, I'm sticking to, insurance company X, Y, or Z because of these particular reasons. And they will be able to give you all those aspects. And it is also cost friendly. You don't need to set up so many branches. There is the branch of the bank, then the branch of the insurance company. No, you get to use the same space, but be able to get a lot more. That is the bigger point of our discussion, but also investment. In this time of the economy, and also going out of lockdown. I love to say we are post-lockdown, not post-COVID, because COVID is still here and now we are having Ebola coming through. These are the times that you get to think about investment. The people working in the corporate sector love to talk about side hustling. Is that side hustle getting you the very best of life? That's a discussion that we're going to be getting to. I want to say a special thank you to UAP Old Mutual and Postbank for ensuring that this comes through. The Bank of Uganda, the Uganda Insurers Association, of course. We can't be able to forget about you. Thank you for bringing this in. And for those who are coming to us live on our different socials, but also on the live broadcast and stream, we want to welcome you. But in case you are tweeting and talking about this, get to use the two hashtags. One is hashtag Get Empowered, and the other one is hashtag Tutambulefe. Now let's walk together. For our colleagues who may not understand what Tutambulefe means, let's walk together in this conversation. And in no particular order, I'd like to introduce to you some of our speakers this evening. I know that you've seen a bit of their profiles on social media, but I'll have to flash them out. I normally love to say, ladies first unless there is danger. But since there is no danger today or this evening, I will definitely start with my namesake also and change title. So probably that title you've been seeing on social media is entirely changed. That's the world, yeah. In just a blink of an eye, titles get to change. And now Gloria Tuhaise is the Director of Administration, Bank of Uganda, and she as well previously served as the Principal Internal Auditor at the Bank of Uganda from 2011 to 2013, as Business Analyst at the East African Development Bank, that was 2008 to 2011. She also served as an Internal Auditor at the Bank of Uganda from 2004 to 2008, IFMS Accountant at the Ministry of Finance Planning and Economic Development, that's 2002 to 2004. Teaching assistant at Makerere University. I love to say that some of these people have huge CVs that you will have to create a song and have a chorus and everything. So I'll stop it at that and allow Tuhaise, I almost said Mildred because I said my namesake. Tuhaise, just say hello to our viewers and we will go to our next speaker.
Hello, our viewers, and I'm glad to be here.
And I'm saying viewers particularly because I know that most of you are joining us online. In no particular order still, I will go to Mr. Tony Mudola, who is the Acting Managing Director, UAP Old Mutual. And Tony Mudola, of course, boasts of an illustrious career in insurance and finance, having worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers as an insurance senior, at Britam Insurance Company, Uganda, as a financial accountant, and at Liberty General Insurance, Uganda, as head of finance. And he's currently serving as the Chief Finance Officer and Acting Managing Director at UAP Old Mutual Life Assurance. And UAP, of course, making this possible today. Mr. Tony Mudola, you can say hello to us all.
Hello, our viewers. We are pleased to be here and glad to have you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can't wait to hear about matters, money and insurance and bank assurance. Another person who you've probably seen on your TVs quite more often as well sometimes is John Chisacha. I said in no particular order. He is the CEO Uganda Insurers Association, and he's an experienced insurer with a demonstrated history of working in the short-term and long-term insurance markets, and skilled in insurance consultancy, training, bank assurance, marketing, business development, and management. And the CV is as huge as I can continue to speak about, but I'll stop right there, John, and say hello to us. And later on, you'll be letting us know whether you Ugandans, yourself and myself, are taking up insurance. So we're just excited to clap.
Okay, thank you so much, Mildred. Good evening to our viewers and those present here. I don't know where you got that information from. It doesn't sound like me at all. But we'll take it and I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, glad to have you as well. He definitely knows that's him and much more probably that we didn't say. But in no particular order, still allow me introduce to you Mr. Julius Kaketo, who is the Managing Director and CEO Post Bank Uganda, that have also made this possible today. He has a wealth of experience in banking, spanning over 20 years in Uganda and the United Kingdom. When we talk about sticking and understanding a particular profession, many of us young people love to hop from one job to another. But Mr. Kaketo has also been instrumental in transforming Post Bank into a fully fledged commercial bank, driving financial inclusion. And he's also a member of ICPAO, a fellow of SCCA, and also an alumnus of Manchester Business School, where he obtained his MBA. And I've told you, the CVs are huge. I'll just give you a sneak peek and allow Mr. Kaketo to say hello to us.
Hello, hello viewers and listeners as well, and everyone here present. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Thank you for coming through. We do have Mr. Samuel Sejaka. He loved that corner, particularly where he's seated, the extreme. I don't know why, but he will let us know. He's a board member of UAP Old Mutual, and he is a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants and a Certified Public Accountant of Uganda. He also holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Accounting and Finance from Makerere University, a Master's of Science in Financial Studies from the university, and a Bachelor of Commerce and a postgraduate diploma in computer science from Makerere University. So many papers. You look at him and you just see a lot of papers. He's looked at whiteboards and blackboards and so many. Mr. Sejaka, say hello to us.
Thank you very much, Mildred. Good evening, viewers, those watching and those listening. I'm happy to be here, and I hope I'll make a contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. And since we are in the golfing month, he is actually a very, very good golfer and the current chairman of the Uganda Professional Golfers Association. I should have said that much earlier on. They say work without play. You can complete the statement for yourselves. Last but in no case the least, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Andrew Kavera, who is the Executive Director, Post Bank Uganda. I want to say to Haise, strategically sat wherever she is. But Andrew is the Executive Director and Chief Digital and Financial Services Officer at Post Bank Uganda. And he is also a seasoned banker with over 12 years experience in banking, doing credit risk analysis. That's very, very key, because sometimes some of us want to get the money, but payment becomes the hardest bit of it, and forgetting that this money does not belong to the bank, it belongs to other depositors as well. He is also, he started his banking career at Standard Chartered Bank before moving to DFCU Bank, where he was the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Change and Innovation Officer. A huge CV as well, but just allow me have Mr. Andrew Kabera speak to us and say hello to us before we get to start.
Good evening, viewers and listeners. I'm happy to be here, and thanks, moderator.
Thank you so much. And once again, for those who just joined us, my name is Mildred Tohaise. I am a journalist. I love to call myself a farmer as well, because I think that's more prestigious at some point in time, because we eat every day at whatever cost. And I'm glad to be your host today. I will be taking this on. Like I said, if you're joining us on social media and you want to continue with the conversation on the various spaces, use the hashtag #GetEmpowered and hashtag #Tutambulefena. Do not forget to tag in Bank of Uganda, Uganda Insurers Association, Post Bank Uganda, and UAP Old Mutual. We'll start off with a financial wellness class. I love the catchphrase, financial wellness, because today, at whatever cost you spend something, our expenditures may be totally different. Someone's expenditure for a month may be someone's pocket change today, but that's a non-starter. Let's go into the details of what we'll be talking about. And I want to start off with Professor Samuel. Especially on your minds, on your take on the attitude of Ugandans towards investment, because we've always been told Uganda is one of the most entrepreneurial countries. But unfortunately, also on the flip side of it, many of these businesses never get to see their first birthday. So are we really investors? Are we into investment? Or it's a totally different discussion of we just want to try out things?
Thank you very much, Mildred. First of all, I don't know how we can debunk this problem of Uganda being very entrepreneurial. It's something that happened a while ago while I was also still working in the university. And there was something called the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which did a survey. In research, you look at issues of validity, and we were wondering whether this was really valid. But it included the Mamambogas and all these other people who have no alternative source of employment. And all of those are the ones we called entrepreneurs. So I don't know if it is correct to say we are the most entrepreneurial country, because if we were the most entrepreneurial countries, one of the most entrepreneurial countries, we would be in a better position than we are. I mean, we have been debating whether we are lower middle class or whatever, and those kinds of things, which wouldn't be debating if we were entrepreneurial. Even when you look in the region, you will see that some of our neighbors do a better job being entrepreneurs than us. And there's practical evidence to that. But more to the question and what we want to talk about, I don't know if this problem really starts with our education systems, but I am only now talking now that I have 2020 vision. And I find that a lot of the knowledge I use to survive today didn't come from school. So when you start, for instance, talking about mindset, what I get to understand is we were taught to be employed rather than to do things for ourselves. So in terms of how we were taught to go and work and get paid and spend that money. But then also culturally, we seem to have developed over time a very short-term view of money. And we think you can make money in the very short term. But it takes a long, long time to make money. And really, if you look at Uganda, if you find a company which is 30 years old, that company has been going for a long time. But when you look worldwide, you'll see companies have been around for 200 years, 150 years, and they're still going strong. So that is the first problem. How can we, if we're entrepreneurial, create a legacy and pass it on to the next generation and the next generation so that we create intergenerational wealth? So the first problem I think we have, all of us, is we have a short-term view of things. Now, if you turn that to savings, you will realize that not many of us think of saving until we are maybe about 40
Okay.
or near retirement. Then you say, hey, I need to save,
We normally say we don't have enough to save.
or we don't have enough to save. But in other societies, that culture is really embedded. People get a mortgage as soon as they get a job. And it is very clear, should I pay rent or pay a mortgage? So I think this is one of the issues we have. On the other hand, we also have very limited asset classes in which we are investing ourselves. Most of us, when we make money, I think I was a victim of this very many years ago. When I made my first money, the first thing I thought of was brick and mortar. So all of us are victims of brick and mortar. And is it the best investment? Maybe at the beginning you need to get some security, but it is not the only asset class that we should be investing in. So we seem to have a limited view of the opportunities that are available. So there are things like equities, there are things like treasury bills, bonds, and other capital instruments in which one can be investing. But I don't know how many of us are investing in them. There are things like taking out the insurance policies you referred to, and making sure that you have managed your risk and so forth. All those things seem to be outside the ambit of the financial wellness we are talking about. But it all starts with the kind of education we received. When we were in school, would anybody tell us that you are going to be here for the next 40 years and this is how you should look at money? So I guess that is the mindset, how we have been brought up, how we have been tutored, and how we have been educated. So I guess part of this financial wellness is how can we catch the young ones early? How can we change the whole conversation on financial literacy so that people begin early to understand the importance of saving? People begin early to understand that you can inflation-proof those savings, and also make sure that at one point that 9 to 5 job is going to end. And when you walk off into the sunset, there will be something.
All right, thank you. I'll be getting back to you. I think you've just nailed it, especially when you start off from the education system, whereby you have 7 years primary, 6 years secondary, then you go to university and then start looking for a job at the end of the day. And then I totally agree with you. I remember during the lockdown when, people had private cars were allowed, and those who had their small plots of land, depending on mindset, people were saying, okay, we asked you to buy cars, you said you wanted to buy land, so let your land take you to wherever you want to go to. But you mentioned the aspect of insurance, which I actually want Jonan to come in on. Insurance seems to be a new phenomenon to many Ugandans. Number one, many think insurance, what if I insure and then I don't get to use the money? I have health insurance and I don't fall sick. What happens? There are so many what ifs. What's been the perception of insurance from the Ugandans' point of view, and what's the uptake? Are we still looking at it as the what if case scenario, or there is a change? And what actually needs to be done to better, deepen the understanding of insurance in Uganda's context?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mildred. I just wanted, before I go to responding to the question you've asked me, I wanted to supplement on what the professor mentioned. I think Ugandans, to a large extent, we work best when we are compelled. And for me, I will tell you that from the little experience that I have, if we can combine the good things of insurance with the aspects of how we can be able to compel and police Ugandans, we'll see a bit of a response. I have interfaced with a number of people who took a policy of insurance through bank assurance, for example, and were able to claim and get compensated. But because the loan required them insuring the asset or the security. It worked well when the benefit of insurance came through. So for me, I thought that maybe I would mention that. How do we combine these two issues? If you look at how, for example, MTP is performing, motor third party, amazing figures. We are doing over $1 billion in just stamp duty alone every month. But this is out of comparing. But at the end of the day, when the benefit comes, then it makes sense to the Ugandan. But also the other thing is certainty. I think Ugandans, to a great extent, are not sure of tomorrow. And maybe that is part of the training. We operate in an environment where we focus so much on today, because the feeling is that I am not sure of tomorrow. But also the family setup. If you look at the family setup that many of us grow up around, there is that aspect of harambe. So people feel that when disaster strikes, there is no need for me to save, there is no need for me to invest. After all, I can call upon XYZ from my family to come together. But then quickly going into the question you asked me. We have a challenge also when it comes to perception in terms of insurance. Many Ugandans feel or think that insurance is for high-income earners. So they feel that it is for those that have a bit of disposable income. But if you ask my neighbor here, Tony, I am sure UAP Old Mutual has revolved and now come up with products that are affordable, very, very affordable premiums, up to even about 50,000 in partnership with Post Bank, I'm sure. So if we are able to share this kind of information, that insurance is for everyone, because uncertainty and risks are faced by everyone. Sure. Whether you're rich or poor, a calamity can befall you, but do you have a fallback position? I also wanted to mention that there is also that issue that you highlighted. The relationship between the premium I pay and at the point at which I claim, or at the point at which I don't claim, what happens to my premium? It's a very big challenge.
Sure.
And the majority of the population needs to understand, and I must applaud UAP and Post Bank for these kind of initiatives. They must understand that we as insurers, we carry a risk. That risk has a price attached to it. That should a disaster strike, we will not go back on our word and say, please, you paid us a premium, it's not commensurate to the risk, please give us extra premium. So we need to push that to the masses for them to understand. But I'll also tell you that despite the challenges that we are facing currently as an industry, not only insurance, but the challenges of the economy being battered by both internal and external factors, if you look at our performance, insurance has proved to be resilient. And for me, I want to emphasize this so that I can give confidence to the listener, give confidence to the viewer that actually insurance works. Because if you look at the years even through COVID, and I know you mentioned we are post-lockdown, we don't mention COVID anymore. But if you look at our performance, just today I was looking at our Q3 numbers, Q3 numbers, we are going into Q4. I noticed that we have already written $1 trillion shillings in premium. If you compare that to 2021 Q3, what about 800 billion? That alone is an improvement or a growth of about 21%. If you look at Q2, we were at about 18.5%. We are now at 21%. If you look at the life side, growing at about 25%, non-life growing at about 19%, insurance is growing. People are gaining a bit of confidence in the product of insurance because we've proved resilient. Having a double-digit growth rate in these circumstances, I don't think is a mean achievement. But it also goes to show the confidence that the public is continuously now putting in insurance. So I again, I would want to urge those listening and those watching and tell them that insurance actually works. If you look at the numbers I've given you and you flip it on the side of claims, more than 50% of those premiums we collected are paid back as claims. But remember, those are just claims. If you add the other expenses, Indeed, we are not just simply in a business of collecting to profit as insurers, but we pay claims. And unfortunately, those that we pay at times do not want to be exposed. But those that, for any reason, are not paid on time, or for any reason whatsoever, and Stephen there will tell you, will make the most noise. So insurance works.
They say it takes forever to pay.
Those are the very few cases, but they will make more noise than now with the advent of social media. If you look at the claims we settled during COVID alone, Tony here will tell you, and the impact we had, that is reflective of the growth that we are seeing today. Thank you.
All right, John, and I'll be coming back to you. That's pretty interesting, yes. And since you mentioned actually the idea of that some people are actually getting bank assurance because probably their loan requires that probably this asset needs to be insured. And when they get the benefit of it, that's when we get to clap. But at first you're like, anyway, because I want the money, because I want this, you get to sign. Anthony, that is where I want to come through. Looking at the partnership between UAP Old Mutual and Postbank on bank assurance, what could have, culminated into this sort of partnership? What brought this partnership to life, actually?
Thank you very much, Mildred. Again, to our viewers and listeners, good evening. Mildred, I think allow me to just start from where Jonan has just left it, and Professor. The biggest challenge we saw, so for example, last year, insurance companies, especially life, paid out about 560 billion in terms of claims, people taking money. Contrary to that, we did about 397 billion in revenues. That is just life alone. So it just simply means that we paid out much more than what we actually got in terms of revenues. So when Jonan speaks about risk, just to give confidence to the viewers and listeners, it is a real problem for the insurance companies. For UAP Old Mutual Life, in that case, we paid out 57 billion in claims and got 54 billion in revenue. So still, we paid out more than what we actually got in terms of revenues. So then comes a question of how do you diversify this risk? How do you get strategic partnerships on board? How do you onboard those particular strategic partnerships? In the same context, financial sector depending did a study and noted that 57% of the people, when COVID came, were not able to live past the first one day based on their lifestyles. 57% for that sample. Of the remaining 43%, 81% couldn't live beyond 15 days on their own lifestyle. So then we are dealing with a massive problem of financial literacy and inclusion. So then the key ask here is, if you're looking out for a partner, then who do you choose and who do you partner with? So if you look at Postbank Uganda and where they've come from and what they stand for, if you look at their ambition, they are standing to be a pace setter in terms of financial inclusion and transformation of lives and livelihoods. For us, as UAP Old Mutual, we are looking out to say, okay, we should be our trusted partners for clients, for our customers, just driving that value in terms of financial ability. So on the side of Postbank, as a strategic partner, one, they have very good national coverage, and this point has actually been talked about. You mentioned rightly that it's no point actually setting up another office where Postbank has a branch. It doesn't make sense at all. IRA, our regulator, gave us the regulations in 2017 for bank assurance to allow banks be able to write some of these policies. And that has enabled us to at least get into such partnerships. But secondly as well, we have aligned goals and visions. So they want to pace set economic transformation. We are exactly on the same agenda. Only that the fact that insurance has been looked at differently in the past, as Jonan has said, we needed to come together as partners. How do we partner with you? Not just in terms of geographical spread, but even other items of how do we distribute? How do we leverage on your platforms? How do we leverage on the competencies of the insurers to be able to sell? Then at the end of the day, if I'm a client of Postbank, I'm looking for a place which is very easy, one-stop shop, complete everything that I need and go out. Not to say tomorrow I will walk into UAP Old Mutual, then tomorrow I will open an account with Postbank. So open an account with Postbank, have these particular solutions introduced to you, take them up, and then have your way out and secure your future at once. So for us, we thought that is the best way to do it in terms of bank assurance, and very happy with the strategic partnership with Postbank Uganda. Yeah.
All right, Tony, just before you, I let you go. Yeah. The market is saturated right now that we're talking about insurance. It then was a new phenomenon. Now people are picking it up with the resilience that was being talked about earlier on by Jonan. With a saturated market, there is choice, you understand? And sometimes people are lost for choice. You don't even know what should I best on to choose which insurance partner. And one would ask, why would I trust UAP Old Mutual out of the very saturated market to be my insurance partner?
Thanks, Mildred. We can look at saturation in different ways. If I look at in terms of insurance penetration, we are talking of just 0.8% of this population in Uganda being insured. Now, that's a very small penetration of insurance. And then when we look at it the other way in which you're describing it in terms of saturation of the market, so within urban areas, you seem to notice as though really everyone is insured, which is not the case. So the market is still quite virgin, if I should put it that way. Very, very virgin for insurance in Uganda. The key issue we've had is what again, back to Jonan and Professor are saying, how well are the masses educated about insurance products? What is the attitude towards insurance? Now, for UAP Old Mutual, we are combining two brands in this particular company. One, Old Mutual, which is a brand that has been around for 175 years. And again, Professor said, if a company has been around 30 years also, you're sure you probably trust them more. UAP, on the other hand, made 100 years in 2020. So that's again a solid background. So we are on a journey to rebrand fully to Old Mutual, but what the takeaway from here is that this is a combined experience of over 270 years in terms of insurance. That said as well, it's a one-stop shop, even as we established in Uganda. So some of my colleagues who are here, so for example, Mr. Stephen Chikovore, he heads the general business arm. So general business is more property, your houses, your group personal accident and the likes. Then we have the financial services arm, which will best majorly in terms of fund management. Then there's life, which I'm representing today, which is basically life, really. And lastly, the property. So you have this group which then can be able to offer you more or less a one-stop shop, with the exception that if you look at what we've described, banking is missing. And that's where now the key question comes in. How do we go into strategic partnerships? So we stand core to our values as UAP Old Mutual, but most importantly is that if we are to be able to trust that a particular brand is to deliver, then you should be able to question them in terms of client service, which we should be able to deliver and have delivered and testify to that, but also stand the test of time in terms of how do you enable financial inclusion, which UAP Old Mutual has done quite well. Thanks.
All right, and if there is anything that anyone can forget, you can't forget that old is gold, like the Warriors say. And you can definitely be able to trust a company that has existed for quite a period of time. But picking up from what Tony has said, and coming to you, Mr. Kaketo, when I asked him about the market saturation, and he clearly stated so, and that is it, that when we see the market saturation probably in the Central Business District, we think that is a representation of the entire country. And that's more or less been the same kind of aspect even when it comes to banks and access to financial services for the rest of the Ugandans. What are you doing as Postbank to ensure that you break that kind of, I would say, chain, that you're seeing many of these financial institutions concentrating in the urban areas, concentrating in probably the Central Business District, and yet a greater percentage of Ugandans live outside of this small box that we are all used to looking at?
Thank you. For Postbank, actually, we have distribution across the country, both in terms of the old-fashioned way of reaching out to the customers and combined with the right technology. I'll start with the old-fashioned way. We've got 53 branches spread across the country, plus 3 contact centers, and these are everywhere, from Kotido to Yombe to Kanungu. We have branches all over the country. And these are supported by mobile vans. We have 14 mobile vans. A mobile van is really a licensed branch on the wheels. It can do everything that you get at a branch. It can lend money, take deposits, open accounts. It's licensed by the Bank of Uganda, the way a branch is licensed. Now, these ones go out to the rural areas to reach customers who are not based in town centers and localities. Of course, we have the ATMs, but in addition to that, with the agency banking now in place, we have over 400 agents that are spread again all over the country. In addition to that, we are part of the ABC agency platform that has over 10,000 agents. So in terms of outreach, we actually reach right to the rural communities. Then we have the phone banking. A lot of transactions are self-service. You can do on the phone. You don't have to be near a branch or next to a branch. We have internet banking. And very importantly, we bank circles and groups. Because the moment you have a circle, actually, it's one account in the bank, but it's an account reaching out to quite a number of people. If you support and power this circle, it will go ahead to transform lives for so many people out there that actually are not in direct contact with the bank. So that way, actually, the number of customers we serve, in my view, are understated because a lot of these groups and circles are one account, but actually they're carrying and serving a lot of Ugandans. So we have a mix of both the traditional and the technology, the modern way of doing banking, to reach out to as many Ugandans as possible.
Maybe if I could just interrupt. I totally agree with you when you say, yes, it's just one account, but it's representative of probably hundreds or tens of people together. But on the flip side, one would ask, what is the sort of perception, or what have you experienced, especially in the rural areas where you're banking circles, that I am willing to bank on behalf, we are a group, and not necessarily as an individual having an account as Mildred Tohaise, not as one group of about 10, 15 people. What's the experience on ground?
Again, it's to do with the way our communities are set up. It's a lot easier for people in a rural area who know each other. They meet all the time. They socialize. It's very easy for them. Yeah, there's a lot of trust. It's very easy for them to come together and actually mobilize support from a bank, as opposed to each one going individually, trying to negotiate on their own. I think it's a lot easier if you are together in a group and you're supported together. Additionally, a group knows its requirements at a local level, which a bank may not know. They will know probably our challenge is around ABC. And if we get this money, this is how we are going to use it to address our challenges or to take us forward as a group. So there is a lot of that. And I think Uganda has over 6,000 licensed circles. So much as we have the traditional banks, the circles are doing a very good job in getting to the rural communities. And I think as a bank, when we support a circle, we believe we are supporting so many Ugandans who are behind that circle.
Okay, thank you very much. I agree. There is a level of trust, and I was asking the ministry implementing PDM and asking what's going to be different this time, and said, well, we are going to the parishes, these people live together, you trust each other, you're next to, so there is a lot that you will be at stake if you probably want to run away with the money. So trust is a very important one. Gloria, coming to you, as young parents, or when you give birth to a child, you're thinking about the future already, even when the child is still in the womb. Which schools will they go to? What kind of education you want to give to them? And when we talk about insurance, we know that various insurers have come through to give us education policies, including UAP Old Mutual. And I know I've been told that you are one of the clients, which is a brilliant one, because sometimes people sell ideas or sell things that they themselves are actually not part of. What advice would you give to that parent about, you know, this education insurance? Someone is saying, why do I give you my money now to educate my child 18 years to come at university? What if I am not around? Like Jonan was saying, you know, people live in a lot of uncertainty. What's been the experience? What's the advantage of taking up such packages?
Thank you very much, Mildred. Yeah, I am. Yes, I'm here mainly, I'm sure, because of being, I might be one of the long outstanding clients when it comes to most of the policies here, and especially
terms and conditions applied to inviting.
Yes, I will speak to the SOMESA plan, but I've done others here. Okay. You know, okay, there are many books in the world, but you know there is the Bible. And I like to refer to the Bible because many of us can believe in it. And you know the Bible, which we all read, we all like to quote Jeremiah 29, that whenever we are in problems, I know the plans that I have for you. Before you were made, before I formed you, I knew you, and I have good plans for you. So I like to apply it in a different way. If God, before he formed you in your womb, he knew you, not so. And we were created in his image, and we are supposed to also have wisdom like him. Why for us don't we also plan ahead for those ones we also bring in who are formed in our wombs? Because before God formed us in our wombs, he knew us, not so. And he made some plans. So how did I come to, before I tell you whether it's good or bad, how did I come to have a UAP?
You're freaking us out talking about bad somewhere, but it's okay.
No, whether it's good or bad, but it's a good thing. It has worked for me. I can attest to it. My husband can attest to it. So we gave birth to our firstborn, and both of us happened to have lost our parents. And we had some nasty experiences when our parents died. I realized that the relatives can take everything. You can have built houses for rent, they are taken. You leave for the children money in the bank, it is taken. Generally, everything you leave for them can be gone. And so I was like, but we have this, now we have given birth to a firstborn, we have a child there. So for us, what plans do we have? Are we going to sit there and say, every child comes with their own luck? Are we going to say, risky? Are there things we can do? So I wanted some assurance that indeed, should anything ever go wrong, we can have a fallback position. Our children can study. Because I believed that, having looked after myself since I was 17, I knew that the thing that made me survive was my parents left me with an education. Yes, they left me in senior 6, but they left me in a good school. And at that point, they were in the village, but they left me in one of the best schools in Western Uganda, Mary Hill. So they died when I was in senior 6, and I was at a point where anybody could pick me up because they had given me a good foundation. It's not like if they had left me in the village, I would have been picked up by one of the village old men to marry me, and I would be one of those women in the village. So I said, I think the most important thing that the child needs, leave them with a good education, good foundation, and when you have spoken into their life very well. My mother, having been a teacher, she used to speak to me so much. So I was looking for such a solution. So in looking for that solution, visited some. My husband is a doctor, so I used to do the walking of looking around. And somehow I ended up at UAP. And so I went to another like 2. But when I reached at UAP, of course, as someone who had done SCCA, I wanted to review the financials. I wanted to know what is the structure. I really wanted to know who I'm dealing with, because I would hear people don't pay these insurance companies. Vabi, they are thieves, they are everything. So to cut the long story short, we sat down. We put down the plan, of course, with my husband. We said, how much money would we want our child to have when they are like 18 years to join university? And we calculated, we looked at the kind of university we wanted, we calculated, and so they were many years ahead. And what is the difference between just a bank account nowadays with this partnership that Postbank and UAP has, which were not there at that time? You would have a bank account, was a separate bank account. Insurance was separate. So the only thing that gave me something similar to what the two are entering into was that Somesa plan. So we put what we wanted the child to have. She's now, in 2 weeks, she'll make 20. So it means it's matured. So we put that on her 18th birthday, we would want this amount of money to be there because we had computed that that's when she would be ready for university. And so we worked backwards, and then we said, you know, I have rugezigezi sometimes, as people say. So I walked up to UAP, that building at Kimathi. We didn't, yes, the agent talked with Chichi. I told them, you agents, you like even to add in your lies. So we walked with my husband, and we went up to the real office, sat there, and I got the paper, read sentence by sentence, asked questions, and then I told them, we do not want that when the man dies, or if I ever die, we want, if anything happens to any of us, this policy must mature. And we want an assurance. So, of course, we built the policy, the three of us. The four, it was the two of us, the agent, and I think that person must have been the general manager at that time. I forget his name, he's no longer in UAP. And so we set up, and we set up the first Somesa plan. And of course, we later set up for all the four. We have 4 children, and all of them have the Somesa plan. There are many, even the Bible tells us that there are many investments in Ecclesiastes 11:12. It always tells us, put your invest in not in one, in about 7 or 8 ventures. So this is one of them. And so we sat down and we calculated how much we wanted to put. They worked backwards and they took our average age, we went for medical checkup, and they said, this is how much you'd have to put per month. Of course, since the years were many, the money they said we can put per month was equal to how much we normally paid in wedding meetings and at gatherings of Arsenal playing. So I was like, oh, now we even have where to keep some of our money. So it was not a difficult journey putting that money aside. Okay, even when the children became 4, it wasn't a difficult journey. The most important is that it was like a bank account, because every month we would put. We had chosen to put every quarter because we had combined when we were dating, so we had a car rental. So that rent would come, drop on the account, then be picked to a UAP. And so the most advantageous of having a school fees plan is that you have like a bank account, but it is insured. If you get any problem, there are those events that would make it mature. And me, I needed that assurance, plus that assurance that even if anything happened to me on the 18th birthday, the only person who would be paid would be that child, the person you have written there. So that one I knew, even if anything ever happened to me or my husband, even if we were never there, on this child's 18th birthday, she'll be an adult, she can sign, and nobody can ever go. And there was, if anything happens to you, we shall give them a certain percentage every month, every year. And that percentage, when I computed, it was good to pay for many of these nice schools in secondary. So that's how we entered on that. What have been the advantages? There is that certainty. One, it's a good saving way, save with a purpose. So it was a way of saving with a purpose. Money set aside with a purpose of that when the child reaches university, you don't have to start meandering around, and yet you produced. Yet for you, when God, before he formed you, he knew you and he knew the plans he had for you. Now for you, you're here just producing and then just looking around for fees. Long story short, it matured during COVID, the whole maturity, and because we were still alive, they added on bonuses, okay? So from the sum assured, we got extra by about almost 30%. That day it hit the account. It was so nice. Yeah, that day it was so nice. I actually sat down and I was like, you mean, would I have this money if I had decided to keep it somewhere? Never, I would never. Of course, there was lockdown, so there was a delay a bit. But as I speak, she's going to university. And the only thing we needed were her results and herself. We didn't need anything else. Even in this economy, when people are saying the economy is hard, for us only we needed was for her to be alive and also to have passed and to be there. Some of you who work in UAP, you know her. She did internship here. She's called Denise, I'm the mom. So she did internship here. So all we needed was a brain, her being alive, and an admission letter. That's all we needed. And she's now at university. And we are there reaping from a decision we made many years ago when she was still a nursery school child. And now she's at university and we are here only settled. And the siblings also have. So why do I think we live in uncertainty. You can have houses for rent, you can have bonds, you can have what, but I like this, the insurance products, what is good about them. They are a bit far but near, you can access them. But also when you might be having very little money, that sometimes it may not fit in a bond where by the time you go to a bond through your commercial bank and you have only some little money, the interest can be eaten up. But you know here you can send on mobile money, you can deposit on which day, and every day you get a statement. It might look little, but it's a lot. And when you, after consistently doing it, you see that it's a long. Of course, with time, I became like one of the other extended staff that started telling people about it. My neighbors joined, my workmates, my students, my church. I think even our clergy, my church, we also have umbrella trust funds for our clergy. In other words, we save for everybody, that when we get a new clergy, we start putting for them some little money that the day they transfer them, they would have something, okay? Instead of disturbing Christians, let's send this man away. Okay. For us, we start preparing for your exit when you reach. So they are good products. They create certainty. When you need the money, you can get it. And having worked, because I've worked in procurement at the central bank for about 7 years, now I work in administration. I'm a contract manager. So I have procured insurance. So I have learned it. I have done claims. So I know they pay and I know how big they pay. And so I encourage people, take up insurance. You can have so many other things you do. You can take up insurance because it helps, it pays. Sometimes we die because of ignorance. Thank you.
Wow. That's where we get a standing ovation, actually. If we didn't have we still have a lot more. That's interesting. I think one particular thing I pick out is that we tend to invest for. Every time you're hearing a parent, I'm investing for, but sometimes you need to invest in the children, and that investment, education, is the in, as opposed to I'm building houses, I am, buying a lot of land for the children. There is a lot more that you need to do. And at one point in time, I thought Gloria had come to my home because I used that particular scripture to name my child, Jeremiah. I alone know the plans, and I pick up that, if God knew before I was formed, then with the parents need to. Mr. Kabera, I need to come to you. Some schools have a motto that knowledge is power. Even the Bible that Gloria was referring to speaks at a point in time that people are lost because of a lack of knowledge. As a bank, the opportunities, these aspects that can be taken up, but unfortunately people do not have this information, either by default because they're not looking out for the information, or the people who possess the information have not come out as much to speak about what is available and what people can take up. What are you doing as Postbank Uganda to ensure that these aspects about financial literacy are out in the public, and it is a decision? It is just for someone to say, let me make this decision and take this bold step to do something about my financial well-being.
Okay. Thanks, Mildred. That's a good question and a tough one. I think as Postbank we're trying to have a hybrid. You can talk about the digital side, but also the manual one. We go to the communities because, as you are aware, we are scattered all over the country. So we have these workshops we have with the communities up country, where we meet customers, those who are, already with us and those who are intending to join us, and we talk about our products. We also do webinars to try and take people through those who are a bit digital. But as you are aware, communication of recent is quite tough. This is something I think not only for banks, even maybe insurance. The way we used to have, when you look at the communication channels over time have kept on, changing. Those days it was easy to, for example, even counting, I remember they used to write things on houses. But now we are around, 45 million Ugandans? So communication is a bit of a challenge. So you have the physical and the digital. But what needs to be done is to have what I would call the digital economy, where you have people, at least virtually, where you can see them. Those of us who are going the markets, you can see a pool of people around, and you wonder, where do I start from? Do I get this huge thing and I start talking, or what? So when you talk about the digital economy, is to get the market you see in Nakawa here, and you have them on the phone. Then you're able to communicate. As it is now, it's quite a challenge. We do both physical and the digital approach.
Okay, what is the perception, especially when you're doing the physical? I am just imagining, for example, you walk into a market, you have very beautiful information, and people are like, because you're going at the time when they're working. The perception when you're physically, engaging these people about financial literacy, what do you see, or what has been the experience? It's one thing to take something good. Somewhere in southwestern Uganda, they always say, when you throw dried meat to a dog, it will first run thinking probably you're throwing a stone, not knowing that this is actually food to them.
Okay, quite challenging, but as banks, at least we have an advantage. Everyone is looking for money, so you can tell people are going to give you money. For example, when you go to the people and say, guys, look here, we have a campaign is going on. It's called Tumbulo Gatako Mutindo, value addition, literally said in Luganda. So we are having these workshops all over the country, and what we are saying is that we know that you want money, but before we give you the money, first come and we talk to you. So within those sessions, you're able to talk to these clients, try to educate them, talk about the products, what they need to do. When you talk about agriculture, why is it that we lose a lot of, harvest due to poor management? So how do you add value? So the moment you talk to them, then those who are serious or those who are willing and able are then given loans. So I think for us, that's the advantage we have, that at least everyone is looking for money. So somebody can listen.
The people from the central Uganda always say that. But it is really, really beautiful that there always has to be a catch. Professor Samuel, if I could come back to you, and I think maybe Gloria could also talk about this. There's so many ventures, there's so many aspects. Everyone, when they try to speak to an investment venture, probably they've been a part of and it's been successful, you feel like, oh, I need to join that. Then there is another beautiful story and you're thinking, I need to join that. And you're somewhere lost in the middle. So apart from just banking, which other ventures do you think Ugandans can be able to invest in to be able to grow their finances? Because it's one thing to have the finances and it's another thing to grow them.
Wow, that's a very difficult one, Mildred. I don't know why you picked on me. There are better experts here, but I'll try. But the first thing I want to say as part of this financial wellness class is a lot of us get into business because we have had somebody talking about it. And you remember I referred to the things that you were never taught in school. It was not until I read a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it talked about not getting advice from bricklayers. So don't get advice on financial matters from bricklayers. Okay? Don't get advice on gold from people who do bricklaying. And whenever I say it to people, they say, no, I'm insulting them. But the point here, or the lesson from the book here, is that for all of us, if you want to start a business, because all of us who are working, they want to start that side hustle. So you want to go and grow trees, because you have had people growing trees. You want to do poultry because you hear somebody is doing poultry. And there's some people who go around telling people that bino bifuna bifuna chiraru, you can become rich doing this. So you get into these ventures and you put your hard-earned savings when you don't have knowledge. So I guess for any business that somebody would want to do, can we first learn that the first thing is to understand, so that you're not a bricklayer trying to be a farmer? Okay? So can you first learn what are the intricacies of that business? Even if it is growing trees, you will find after 2 years that actually you planted the wrong ones. Simply because you didn't get into a group of people who grow what? Trees. If you are keeping goats, you will find you bought the wrong breed. So there are so many intricacies about whatever business you want to do. So the first thing is, have you gotten the basic knowledge of what should be done in that business? These days people talk a lot about coffee growing, and I know some people have gone to grow coffee because we say mwanyi zabala. So you then ask people, but which is the right coffee? Did you do soil tests and so forth? So that is the first big lesson for financial wellness. Don't invest in something that you do not understand. First go and be taught. Go be modest with yourself, be humble, have humility and learn. Now, when you talk about the other things that I think are important for us, in terms of what we're talking about today and why we have Postbank here and UAP Old Mutual, the thing about risk is the first product all of us should have is health insurance. Now, I don't know how many people who are listening or who are viewing this conversation have health insurance. And that is why in COVID they were saying that very many of us are just one incident away from disaster. One of those disasters is really if you have a sickness in the family, you have an accident or whatever. These days, border accidents are a way of life. So if you have one of these unfortunate events and you don't have health insurance, who will betide you? So that is one thing. The other one, I think Gloria has given enough witness. Yeah. We have the SOMESA plan. By the way, I didn't get there accidentally. I'm a member of the board of UAP Life. So I am also here to be Takalango for them. So when you have this investment with a purpose and your kids get to university, you have a buffer, you have some kind of protection. So those are also products in which you can invest your savings. Now, Ugandans have not understood that these are also what? Products in which you can invest. So you can talk about health insurance, you can talk about education and life as other things apart from the other ones which we invest in. Because there's a sense in which we always want to invest in physical, starting with the brick and mortar, and then the trees, you know. A lot of the conversations I hear, and I personally, I have burnt my fingers in most of those ones. Trees, you find the neighbors put the goats they are eating from there. Because you're a telephone what? A telephone farmer. Poultry, you get all these disasters because you didn't know which vaccines to do what? To buy. But as you do some of those things, there is also a realm where you can move into intangible investments. And these are the ones I'm really talking about. That can we, as part of your financial wellness, begin to talk in terms of a portfolio. Yes, it is nice to have some apartments, to have a house, and so forth. But it is equally nice to have a product, an asset called health insurance. It is equally nice to have an asset called SOMESA Plus or education for your what? For your children. It is equally nice to have life insurance. Supposing you die, what happens? And this Gloria has adequately brought out. So I guess, I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah.
But one needs to start by being having humility and say, I want to do this. Who has the best knowledge in this? But also, who has succeeded?
Sure.
Don't go into a new field, and be the proverbial bricklayer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think Gloria can also add up on this one.
Okay, thank you very much, Mildred. I do teach financial management. People call me Musomesa, so outside there, I teach. That's why I see two things going around. I had sent you one for me as Gloria, but I've seen their profile for me as an employee of the central bank. That's also part of risk management, because you need to be able to stand on your own when
Sure.
your employer wakes up
Very
and says
true.
you go
Yes.
home. You shouldn't say, now me, I'm going to drink and die, as if when you went to school, you went to study for that employer. So as I've told you, I like to refer to the Bible, because even if there are 10,000 books, I find everything. People tell me, I read this book, I found it there. Me, normal, I find it. So one time when I was teaching in finance, we tell the students, you must be diversified. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So don't say, I heard Gloria saying Somesa plan. As long as I have Somesa plan, I am Chiwede. You have to put your eggs in more than one basket. And so in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 12, it says that divide your investments among many places, because you do not know what risks may lie ahead. And it says in verse 6, plant your seed in the morning and keep busy, for you do not know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. So in other words, even the Bible, you people, you only read where they say all weapons formed against me shall not be prosper, even when you are the weapon. But the Bible has a lot of counsel if you read it from Genesis to Revelations. Yeah, it doesn't have only those words which are for your enemies. So the Bible tells us we should put at least in how many? At least 7 or what? Now, when they say 7 or 8, also helping people is an investment, because those you have helped, that day it doesn't shine in your compound, they are the ones who will do what? Who will help you. So when we say investing, don't say, now I will not help people, I'm going to invest. Helping and charity works are also part of investment. So I always tell people, you invest according to your schedule, your personality, if sometimes your religion and the circumstances under which you live. There are some investments I call laying a bed for your money, and it sleeps while it gives you profit. For example, I've told you the Somesa plan, as long as the debit has gone, you wait to get the statement. If you have a sure deal investment, those are products from UAP, but you're going to pay me for all this advertisement. As a marketer now, if you have a sure deal, okay, many banks have an equivalent. Because before I learned about the sure deal, I used to have a certain investment where you're aiming at buying land in December, so you start in January. But then I learned also the sure deal that you can say, 5 years, now I have got a job, it is 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, I need to have this amount. Every month, put aside. First save, then play with what remains. Yeah, so there are those. There is something like if you invest in bonds, if you have a reasonable size of money, and you buy a government bond, I can assure you, it is better than rent. You buy it, it has a coupon of 17%. Even if they remove withholding tax, that coupon will just find you. You will just see a message on your phone. So that's why I say you will have laid a bed for your money, and you have kept it there to do what? To sleep, and you get returns. You don't only make money by running around with the tenants. They run away. Then tomorrow when they go, you realize all the rent they paid for 6 months. You have to repair the house. They have vandalized it. It's a good investment also. When you find the person who is obsessed with real estate, they will tell you that's the only one. If you find a farmer who has made it in life through farming, they will tell you that is the only thing that exists in life. If you find one who is rearing rabbits or chicken, everybody can make it according to what they do. So the first thing is invest in knowledge. Before you got a job where you work, you went to school. It means you spent, not so. You spent money, you acquired knowledge. So if you want to learn how to rear chicken, I was joking with the CEO, you can first get 100 of them. First invest in little money, which if it goes away, you will not blame your auntie for having bewitched you. You will have known the reason why the chicken died. Then if you add in and they become 200, and maybe some of them died, now you will have got even more experience before you put in all your savings. And then you start calling people witches and praising the devil. You know, sometimes people think when they are blaming the devil, yet they are praising the devil by saying, you know, the devil came, the devil, meaning you're saying the devil is very powerful. So invest in knowledge. Many of us say we don't have time. Before I started my small business I told you I train students CPA. Of course, I'm not as big as Mr. Samuel, but I am somewhere, okay, in my own market. And we are partners. And he was my teacher, and we are very great friends. So when I joined the bank, there was they brought us someone to talk to us about retirement, because people would retire and they die. And so they said, that man told me, PK, the day has 24 hours for everybody. If you want more time, you can buy it. So you can buy more time and have your day have 40 hours. Okay? And also, 8 hours you must sleep. 8 hours, if you have a job, 8 to 5 job, they are at their work. The other 8, it is up to you to leave them blaming, to be on Facebook, so you can use them. So you use your time well. You can learn in the car. Do you have to listen to all the chidandali that goes? Because remember, there are many gates to our minds, and out of the abundance of our minds, we overflow through our keyboards, through our mouth, through our driving. It's because of our mind. But what goes in our mind goes through the gates on our ears, our eyes, etc. Why don't you listen to a course? Okay, if you want to learn about how can I start a business, why don't you listen to one of those YouTube? You know, YouTube doesn't have only nudes. It actually has a lot of knowledge. You can get a PhD from YouTube.
Okay.
Why don't you listen to that and you learn? So get knowledge. Do what you can. Don't do it because your neighbor is doing it. Me, I teach. And I know when I go in class and I teach the students, just seeing me, they will be happy. But I don't think when I walk into Chikubo, I can easily attract the same customers like those people who I see. For them, they have 200 customers lining. But that is not how I was made. So look also at your passion. What is that God put in you? Okay? And God, and you can only prosper in that what is in you, not what is in him or what is in the other. Okay. So what is that is in you? Yeah, ask God to use that which is in you, the same way he used Moses' rod, and you will do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gloria. And I mean, while she was speaking, I was thinking about the people who want to take all their time in church praying and saying God will do everything, and yet you have biblical scriptures that tell you to work and how it will all work out. Jonan, I want to come to you, and already there is a question that as well also come through from online. Those who are online, you can as well send in your questions and we'll be able to have them through. We're talking about growing finances, but on the bit of the insurance sector, how has the insurance sector contributed towards the growth and protection of personal finances? Growth and protection are actually the keywords, but also from online, if you could, someone is asking about throwing more light on the agriculture insurance scheme. And I think that's also coming through because there's so many people, when they're thinking about investment, we're either planting trees or we want to go into agriculture or something like that.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and be as brief as possible. I know we are almost running out of time. But I wanted to say just one thing, that if you look at the churches, and I'm glad we have a pastor on the panel, if you look at why churches and pastors have been very successful, they have relied on about 3 things. Number 1 is testimony, number 2 is drama, number 3 is music. Listening to Gloria give her testimony on the advantages that have come along because of the product she took from UAP was very impactful. And I want to commend UAP and the Post Bank for bringing her on board. And if we can get many more to testify of the goodness of insurance, we'll be making inroads. And you will see soon the Uganda Insurance Association changing a bit of tactics. Because for us, we would want to benchmark and say, how can we do things differently to sensitize and disseminate insurance information? Because we've done it all. We were at the World Savers Day just 2 days ago with Bank of Uganda and Uganda Institute of Bankers and Financial Services. And the staff of the institute came and dramatized saving through a very short skit. But the impact that it had, and in there were a number of CEOs from the financial services sector, but the focus and concentration and uptake of this information was very, very high. So people relate to testimonies. People relate to drama. And I can guarantee you that as the UIA, you're going to see a lot of this within this space to promote insurance. But going back to what you've asked me in terms of what we do to protect and grow, I think I don't want to repeat what Gloria mentioned because she basically almost answered this question perfectly well. But I want to add and expand a bit or supplement by saying that what insurance will do for you is, number one, provide you with a product. Now, members who are listening, members who are watching, I want them to understand that the first saving and investment product is an insurance product. If you look at, for example, medical that the professor was talking about, if you look at the sort of premiums, and I saw James in the, as part of those who are listening attentively, if you ask James the sort of claims he's paying in medical vis-a-vis the premiums received, the relationship is not there. Medical currently has loss ratios of about 80%. But we are there as the insurance industry to support. You will find that without medical insurance, for example, many Ugandans would not be able to afford decent health care. That is the first saving product you must take, an insurance product. Even if it's a motor policy, even if it's a life policy, that is the first savings product because the benefits far outweigh the premium that you're going to pay. I don't know what rate we are at when it comes to motor comprehensive, James. I don't know if you're still, I've not been on that side for long. I don't know if you're still at 4%. Can you imagine? For a motor vehicle of hundreds of millions of shillings at 4%. That is the first saving. Should anything happen, you call upon the insurance product. And for me, I think that is the first avenue, that we provide products so that the public out there that would want to plan have an option. And if we tap that and rate that to the testimony, then it works very well. But also, the aspect of growth. And I think from the beginning, we talked about culture. Culture, culture, culture. What I have realized is that if we are going to change the culture, the savings culture, the investment culture, we must encourage people to take up insurance. If you are able to meet your premiums, for example, for a life policy on a monthly basis, you're already creating a what? A culture. So insurance is so critical when it comes to promoting savings, investments, very, very critical. Because the biggest problem we have is culture. And I'm glad that Postbank and UAP are forming this partnership. And I'm hoping that with the potential of Postbank, the way you're spread in terms of, you talked of 52 branches and all the agents that you do have, that now UAP can take advantage of that to design products that meet even the last customer of Postbank. Because we are here to create a culture. The banking side has sort of gained inroads because if you have a bank account, you have access and you can check and see your balance at any one time. And even go and withdraw now with the power of the ATM, you would withdraw, change your mind, and then deposit that money back into the bank. How can we create that sort of relationship when it comes to insurance? Because this is critical. This is critical. That we are open in the way we do things. We need to be open. What information are we giving our customers? And for me, I must challenge you.
as UAP? What information and what power are you giving the customer in terms of the knowledge and the information and access to the policy that they have taken? You can imagine Gloria labored to even come and walk to the offices of UAP. She had the means. What about those customers that cannot? What can we do for those customers? So for me, saving, promoting a saving culture, insurance is the answer. If you want to invest, insurance is the answer through the different products that we offer and through these partnerships of bank assurance. Again, I know that to date, bank assurance, I think, contributes about 10% to our premiums, growing at about 20%. So the potential through the channel of bank assurance is immense. So we are going to promote this partnership. Even next week, as the Uganda Insurers Association, we have the Bank Assurance Week. And Postbank is one of the partners who has joined us in promoting bank assurance from 7th to 12th, that is next week. We are going to be talking about this channel, this very unique channel. One that has the potential to build trust, to disseminate information, and if we can tie along our products with banking and offer the customer the power through the technology enabled environment, I see us promoting savings, promoting investments, and the savings culture. Thank you.
Someone, anything about the agriculture insurance?
Okay, I had forgot. They wanted to know something about the agriculture scheme. Now, the agriculture scheme is a partnership between the government of Uganda and the Uganda Agriculture Insurance Scheme. So what happens is that the government of Uganda has subsidized the premiums for agriculture insurance by 50% in some of the disaster-prone areas. Agriculture insurance right now, as we speak, the uptake is so high that within the first quarter of this year, we had used up the subsidy. In fact, as we speak, we are in talks. Because if we are going to be able to protect the farmer, de-risk farming, help them access financing from Postbank, insurance must be very close by. But currently, as we speak, we've used up the subsidy, but we are in talks with the government to increase the subsidy. The scheme sits at the Uganda Insurers Association, and if you go to our website, if you visit Uganda Agricultural Insurance Scheme, or AIC, Agro Consortium website, the good thing with agriculture insurance is that it has brought collaboration amongst all players. So the players have come together to offer capacity and be able to offer an insurance solution to farmers. So you won't only deal with the one insurer, but you are dealing with several insurers under a consortium, which again also should give confidence to the market. I mean, there are quite a number of things that we would talk about, but I know that through Postbank, you can access agriculture loans, and through UAP, you can also access agriculture insurance. But it is something that we are pushing. It is growing. And as we speak, we've covered over 300,000 farmers. More are coming into the fold. But the challenge we have is that the subsidy has been used up, or is used up very, very fast in terms of the demand that we have for agriculture insurance. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And I love that that was another product to be taken up, agriculture, because more than 68% of Ugandans are either employed or just there. They're doing something there to either get a meal or be able to get some money. Coming to you, Mr. Kaketo, on the aspect of, because we've been talking about investment and saving and, you know, side hustling and all that, but there is one key aspect that remains, the finance or that money, the capital to be able to invest. And for many people, they may not have the capital at disposal. They seek to get loans, which is the most common capital that many people get. But with this increasing, you know, and skyrocketing interest rates, someone is asking, what is Postbank, for example, doing to ensure that these loans, as much as we get them to invest and be able to do everything, they remain affordable to everyone? Or are you also going to come and explain economy? Because of economic times, we will increase from 10 to 50% or something like that.
Thank you, Mildred. I'm not surprised you brought up interest rates. Everywhere you go, it's a hot topic. Everyone wants us to talk about interest rates. But generally, in banking, rates are based on market rates. It is just a factor of supply and demand. So what banks normally do, they have what they call a prime rate, a benchmark rate. And it's from that they appraise you, say this is your risk, and then either increase or decrease against that prime rate. When interest rates go up, they also raise their prime rate. Now, for Postbank, most of our book is on a fixed rate. It's not on a prime rate. Why? Because we recognize we have a lot of people who want fixed income, like salary earners. We have the low-income earners, actually, who can't quickly respond to changes in market dynamics. So the moment you give them a variable rate, then they will be in trouble. So for our customers, interest rates have gone up, but they have not felt anything because the contract you made that you return this amount of money every month is fixed. And that's like for 90%, 98% of our borrowers. They are on fixed rates. They are not on variable rates that move with the market rates. So we've committed ourselves, irrespective of where the cost of money goes high, what happens in the economy, these borrowers are paying the same amount of money every month. So they are not affected at all. They are well protected.
Okay, I just borrowed someone's microphone to be able to continue with this. That's an interesting one. I've not had so many banks, or it's actually an aspect that some banks use and say, no, our rate is fixed. Throughout the 6 years, this is what you're going to be paying out, which is a beautiful one. But Tommy, if I could come to you, looking at what you are working on with Postbank Uganda and UAP Old Mutual as well, what are some of those solutions that you're putting up to improve the financial wellness of the customers? Because we just don't want to come and save and have these products, but we want to see the value, because that value is what will bring the testimony that we were talking about much earlier on.
Thanks, Mildred. And again, I think the bigger part of my work has been done largely through the testimony.
I know. We'll issue the check.
But that said, two cases for me, just in addition to what Gloria said, come to mind, largely from a testimony perspective. We lost one of our clients, I think last year. We paid out about 900 million. Now, to me, who was signing, I was asking myself, if this particular client had children in this cause and didn't have this insurance, how would they continue? But this 900 million assures almost a full generation in our Uganda to be able to study. The other bit is, again, one of our savers, passed on. But in this case, it was very evident from their beneficiary forms that they had school-going children. Now, the policies clearly indicate that you will be able to pay for the school fees of those particular children after such an eventuality happening. But you will also be able to pay actually the actual maturity benefits for that particular policy. Now, for me, I look at these two. I said, even myself alone, I cannot just sit back and say, okay, perhaps having just a SOMESA or a sure deal in that particular case is enough. You need that level of assurance. And when we are crafting these products with Postbank, so we have this diaspora community, for example, which has suffered so many ways in terms of trying to invest back home and trying to just have that sense of financial security. We know for sure Postbank has done quite a bit in banking the diaspora community. So we've already started that particular engagement. How do we have them on board in terms of getting them insurance products specified for them? Then in terms of what we don't want really to talk about, which is death, a client takes up a loan. So for example, UAP charges about 33,000 for something like a funeral product, up to a maximum of 113,000. So I look at this and I say, if I'm taking up a loan of 20 million with Postbank, what is that so much for me to say, include for me this insurance? So that in the eventuality that I'm not around, my loan is covered, first of all, by UAP Old Mutual, but also let my people not suffer because they don't have money to give me a proper send-off for that particular matter. So that product is there. Then if you look at what Postbank, for example, is doing in the digital space, digital wallets and so forth, how do we make access in terms of insurance easy? So they have a van already. They have these ATMs. How do we make them smart to be able to issue insurance? A number of discussions are ongoing, but largely the products are what the panel has already spoken about. Key in there is really just to ensure that the risk attached to investment of this particular person is fully covered, whether they are there or not there. So basically that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tony. And you actually mentioned the right thing. We never like to talk about death like we're going to be immortal and stay here forever. When you start a conversation about death, everyone wants to live that, and yet it's a reality. Mr. Kawere, I want to come to you. In this day and age, we want convenience, and yeah, we've received a bit of that convenience for some time. And we've seen the introduction of, the coming in of fintechs that have eased when it comes to financial inclusion and a lot of what the bank in actual sense, where we would say that's the bank, we move into the building. So how are you competing in this space as, Postbank Uganda, UAP Old Mutual, and also in your partnership to remain relevant and be able to serve the purpose, even when you have all this stiff competition that's coming through?
Okay, thanks, Mildred. Maybe before I comment on that one, let me just go back on the interest rates just for a minute.
Oh, yes.
If you allow me. Postbank, we also have interests at 10%. To help the people who are impacted with COVID, SME is up to, Julius, I think 200 million. Yeah, so the listeners out there and the people here who SME is, in case we're impacted and you want a loan which is subsidized, we have it. The government put there some fund, but of course, like we say, the information maybe is not.
Yeah, it's not out there.
So at 10%. So we're a government bank, so we are really interested in that to make sure that people get out of the bad situation or no. But also we have the agriculture facility fund, which is 13 and 15%, depending on 12 and 15%, depending on what you're doing within agriculture. So those are fixed. They are not impacted by the CBR. So the listeners out there, they can always walk into one of our branches or call our customer service center and they get more details. Going back to what you said about the fintechs, we don't look at them as competitors. We collaborate with them. Around 78% of the population, like I said, is below the age of 30. So how do you get these people within the digital economy? You work with the fintechs. So for us, we are there to power these fintechs and work with them, and we get more people into this digital economy because that's the market and you're able to see them. Talking about the insurance bit, which is pretty new within the Ugandan market, we are thinking about having heavy platforms and working with UAP to be able to give, these young people also. Because if you have 78% of the population below the age of 30, it means that most of us here who are talking about insurance, we are just covering just a small bit. It goes back to what she said that, or Professor said, that we think of saving in our 40s. No wonder that's the reflection. It talks to the demographics. So we need a powerful system whereby we are able to massively acquire these young people. Insurance of 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. At the end of the day, it adds up. But also the premiums go down as you have volumes. So you cover these young people in a way, but in a cheaper way if you automate. When you look at UAP, I think you send out agents. It's not sustainable. Agents can only walk to Andrew, Julius, Professor. But if you send them down in Chikubo, they may struggle. So I don't think we have options. We need to automate and take advantage of technology.
Okay. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, you join or you are left behind. Our time is really rushing out and it just feels like we've started the conversation. But if you have a few more questions, we have just a few minutes to be able to close off this. If you have some of those questions coming through, please bring them on. I want to get this to Tony, and it's coming in online from Emmanuel. on Zoom who is asking, what is turnaround time for paying claims? Tony, if you would like to respond to that.
Yeah, thanks, Mildred. Just to go straight to that. So claims are in different natures. So we have what we call maturities. So you had your full savings and then it fully matures. So that is not more than 2 days in terms of settlement. We have what we call a surrender. So someone comes before the maturity period. So that one is about, again, another 2 days. Then we have these that we call normal refunds, whereby someone has to really come to us and say, I'm not able to take up this particular saving anymore. But also that particular person does not qualify for a surrender. So that one, again, another maximum 3 working days. Then the last bit is where we have the corporate claims. Corporate claims, these are the ones which come from the banks. They come from financial institutions, those which will require a bit more information to be able to document. That's a maximum of 5 working days once you've received all the documentation. So give or take, individual life claims, maximum 3 working days. Then these other what we call corporate claims, maximum 5 working days.
All right. Thank you very much. All that is actually in less than a week, and we know just how long a week could be depending on how much you want and why you want that particular money. But I think that's a very good turnaround time. A few more questions, and we'll be closing off this. But as we do get to our closing beat, I want to start off with you, Professor Samuel, and also after answering this, you could probably give us your parting shots. We will have a hierarchy of needs in life, and when it comes to finances, we were talking about financial wellness class. Why do Ugandans look at insurance, including myself probably in the past? Right now I look at insurance in a totally different perspective, but I am guilty as charged a few years ago, that insurance would come on the, down there, you just annex and add if it is to even be in the hierarchy of needs. Why does it feel that doesn't feel actually it is the reality that Ugandans will look at insurance as the last option, very, very last option?
Thank you, Mildred. I think there are a number of reasons. The first one, I think, is culture. For a long time, we have lived communally. So we know somebody else in the clan will foot the bill for your problems. It's something we call a black tax. I remember one relative annoying me so much a long time ago. This guy told me he had a 14-year-old daughter, and he could no longer afford to take her to school. So he was looking for money to do Kwanjula for her. And guess who wanted to marry her? It was a reverend. So he was now asking me to pay money for him to commit a crime. So there's a sense in which this living communally makes people think that others are responsible for their follies, omissions, their laziness, and so forth. So I think as we become more modern, some of these things need to be going away. But otherwise, people will call you and tell you, baby shower, you have to pay. Marriage, you come and contribute. So every day somebody is asking you to contribute to something. So this black tax, this communal culture can really be a burden. And sometimes if you don't contribute, it's a problem. That's why some people, when there's a death, you get this problem that now you have to contribute to this one, the other one, and so forth. So that communal culture is creating a black tax. So which prevents people from actually buying the right insurance products. The second one, I think Jonan has alluded to it, is maybe we're not doing enough to educate people about the benefits of insurance. I personally have benefited so much from insuring that I can also give testimony. I've had a very bad car crash, and Old Mutual gave back my money, and I bought another car. So there are so many things that you will find that insurance does for you. I don't know when I last paid for health insurance. I just walk into the hospital and I last paid a medical bill. I just walk into the hospital. But what people don't understand is that really insurance is pooling of risks. And especially for health insurance, one of my parting shots, which comes before I even finish, is I think the government has done us a disservice by not making health insurance compulsory. Everybody must or should have health insurance as a must. That way, the cost of looking after people, the quality of health care would really improve. We would pay our medical people much better. There are so many things we can do, and this has been done in other countries in this region. The last one I want to say, and which we have been fighting, is an issue of trust. For a long time in the past, especially before we had better regulation, which we have now in the industry, a lot of the companies did not pay claims. So we have had to fight that image and get it out of the way. I hope now people understand that, look, when you buy an insurance product, you can trust the person selling it to you and they will pay you. But what happens usually is when people buy these products, they don't read the small print. So when you have an accident when you are drunk, and then you come and say, insurance must pay me, you must follow read the small print and also follow the procedure. But these days, actually, insurance pays. And if they don't pay you, we have a regulator and the insurance association where you can go and lodge a complaint. Okay. So for me, those three things are really what have been making insurance less desirable in the past. Perhaps the other thing maybe is the low incomes, but now we are because of what the fintechs and so forth, we are coming up with micro products. So everybody can now start talking about inclusion. Inclusion. Now, the second part of your question was my parting thoughts.
Yes.
I know I'll not talk again. One, it is never too early to start saving. That's the first thing. Two, it is very important that even as we save, we increase our awareness of the different products that are available so that we create a portfolio of different savings. I think Gloria said it very well. Don't put your eggs in one basket. And then from the other supply side, I think for us, as the industry, as the financial industry, including the banks and the insurance companies and the financial services companies, we need to improve the effort to take financial literacy to the people so that they can understand what are the different options. Lastly, it is only in the dictionary where success comes before work. So when you are looking at becoming rich, it is something which is a lifetime thing. When you are looking at saving and being able to live comfortably, it is what we call a lifetime thing. There's another book I love reading, and the people here listening to us or viewing us, it's called The Psychology of Money. Can we all learn to play the long game? Success is a long game, and you must be able to be in it for the next 30 years, for the next 20 years. That goes back to my first thing. It is never too early to start. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Postbank, UAP Old Mutual, Bank of Uganda, and Uganda Insurance Association.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gloria. I'll give you a few to give your parting shots. I wish we could continue forever.
Thank you very much, viewers and listeners. Yeah, it's been a good evening. Yeah, my parting shots is that if we have been acting out of ignorance, let us act on whatever knowledge we receive. My parting Bible verse is Hosea 4:6. It says, "My people perish because of lack of what? Because not because of disease, not because of haters or the enemy, but it's because of lack of knowledge. Yeah. So let us act on the knowledge that we have received. Start saving. Have a plan. Invest in your life. Take an insurance policy. You don't have to bug people. Sometimes you find WhatsApp invite, graduation party contribution, as he has said, even bridal shower, what. Everybody knows, as I have said, before God knew you, he planned you.
Yes.
Even you, before you start on anything, you should have planned, okay?
Yes.
So if you are pregnant, really, how can your pregnancy be people's problem to contribute for your bridal shower? That is
Gender reveal, eh?
irresponsibility. Yeah, that is rubbish, irresponsibility, and I don't know how I can call it. Who were you with when you were doing it? So before you form, plan. Are we together? Yeah, plan for the future, for everything you are doing. When it's January, know that there will be December, and so it will be Christmas. But before Christmas, there will be 3 school terms. And you know what your income is. Don't go drink all of it, and then you start running around. You see that one doesn't help when people have problems. Get together with your friends and have medical insurance so that you can a healthy body. Your body is the temple of God, not so. You need a healthy body to be able to receive all the good knowledge. And lastly, use your time profitably. Where you can, there are things which are important, but they are not urgent. There are things which can be outsourced. So, you don't have to do all the things. Outsource the ones which are not core. Are we together? There are certain things you can outsource. Outsource what you can so that you can save some time to think and also invest wisely. Okay. When you're going to invest, have proper knowledge. Don't just do it because your neighbor do it. People even do wrong courses because they see other people doing them.
Sure.
Thank you.
You actually reminded me in my MA class, is where everyone is going, and this is an adult who is saying that. John, I'll give you the time to give us your parting shots.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mildred, and thank you to Postbank, to Old Mutual for this great opportunity. And as I get off the stage, I wanted to just say maybe 3 or 4 things very, very quickly in under 2 minutes. I think the challenge I want to leave with those listening to us and those viewing us, but especially to my fellow insurers, how do we expect to achieve different results using the same methods? If you look at how we sensitize, if you look at how we disseminate information, we have done this for years, but we are still at a penetration rate of below 1%. I joined the industry in 2005, almost 17 years ago. To date, and my seniors here can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if we've gone beyond 1%. We are doing the same things. And now this is where the Uganda Insurance Association comes in. What we now want to do, because I gave you the figures, I gave you the numbers, insurance is actually growing. The uptake is there. The premiums are growing. So how do we move the conversation away from the penetration rate, which is stagnant, to the actual benefit of insurance? How do we break down that 1 trillion for the ordinary person to understand it? Because insurance, in a way, and I will tell you, contributes to taxes, pays claims, employs people. I gave you an example of just one single product we have at the association, which is a motor third party, where we pay 1.5 billion every month in taxes. That's a huge contribution. So if we can quantify insurance
and position it in such a way that people can understand the value we bring. My brother here deals in investments on the life side. The funds you will collect, you will invest. We are sustaining government borrowing. We are investing in government securities. We are paying people. We are paying people salaries. Can this be quantified so that members can know the value of insurance? Okay, the value of insurance. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the issue of the information that we have. How do we use the information that we have? How do we tap into the power of data? Unless we can do research, UAP will tell you the sort of customers that they do have on the general side, on the life side. What are we doing with that data? To be able to underwrite better, to be able to rate better, how are we using this data? How are we using government institutions, for example, NITA, who has brought together the entire infrastructure of government into one space? How can we tap into this power of data so that we can be able to make decisions as insurers? And for me, these are key issues. And when I talk to my brothers from the bank, and I want to also challenge you like I've challenged my fellow insurers in terms of where we need to go. We are under a cash and carry regime. But today, what happens if my standing order bounces, for example, and I was paying for a life policy? Aren't I penalized?
Yeah.
Isn't that a deterrent to life insurance? How can you use insurance premium financing and we negotiate good products so that the value goes to the customer who pays premiums upfront using an IPF and then be able to spread that across over a period of time in a manageable way? How can we use the power? Because we are in a cash and carry. You will ask all the underwriters. They are struggling with payment of premium. A huge potential for us and for you as bankers. But also the other issue, and as I conclude, we must undertake research.
Yeah.
So that we generate information that adds value. And these things that I'm telling you and I'm talking about are high on the agenda of the Uganda Insurers Association. Because we've discovered that we must do things differently. If we want different results, we must do things differently. How do we generate information that you can use, that can help us position insurance to be trusted? And the professor talked about lack of trust.
Yeah.
How do we generate information? How do we have partnerships with the universities to undertake research so that we can inculcate that culture of insurance early enough? The people who sell insurance and the people who work in the insurance industry, the majority of them, it wasn't their career of first choice. And I see many of them smiling. So how do we ensure? And if you look at the panel, almost the majority are ACCAs, CPAs. What is it that the accounting profession did to make it so attractive? Because again, these become our ambassadors. So for me, those are key things, and the UIA, and we are committed to ensuring that we pursue these sort of things that will add value to you, our members, add value to Old Mutual, add value to Postbank, so that we can see the real growth of insurance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John, and that's very key, especially when you end up with research. Without research, I mean, what problem are you tackling? What solution are you bringing? There has to be research, definitely. Mr. Kabera, it's your time. I'll be giving you a few just to give us your parting shots on the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Mine is a basic one. I believe in the young, because maybe for us we lost time. So as banks and you know, insurance companies, let's focus on the young people. We have a bit of a lost generation, but we shouldn't lose hope. Let's focus on the young ones. They will save, they will invest, they will have better behaviors, they won't pay these black taxes Professor was talking about. So to me, let's focus on the generation just below us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And this will go to Tony and Julius as you give your parting shots. Since the festive season is around the corner, of course, Gloria talked about this. I had my first Christmas carol today, and I'm thinking November has just started and you're giving us Christmas carols. But what products and solutions do you have for the Ugandans who are returning home? There were some about to come in these festivities. You could start from there and also give us your parting shots. Let me start with Tony and then to Julius.
Thanks very much, Mildred, and very good remarks from the rest of the panelists. For the Wasama, you know, this is a group of people who work so hard, come back home and want to have a good life. But at the end of the day, what we are discovering is that, yes, that money that you actually, about 20 million or so, I've actually seen them spend more than 20 million. You could actually come back the following year when that money has actually earned you a much better return than even the country where you are working from. Our colleagues in Postbank have already sourced in terms of the diaspora community. On our end is we've already empowered them with the knowledge, including the synergies in terms of strategic partnerships on how do we get them on board in terms of saving products, educational products for their children, whether they're here, whether they're abroad, it doesn't matter. But also just life in general, the same way we've talked about. But as a parting shot, and again, Jordan speaks for the association, which also includes us. So whatever he has spoken is core to what we as UAP Old Mutual as well believe. But when I look at, again, the same study by Financial Sector Deepening noted about the median saving at that point when they did that study was 4,800 liquid saving for all the people there, 4,800 shillings. Less than $1.5 for that matter. And it just goes on to show you what Professor was talking about the blood tax. Yes, whether you have this money, somehow, somewhat, you will lose it if you're not saving it. You will lose it. Then we have our colleagues who retire or get their retirement benefits, but then it's very well known that only 2% manage to keep it after 2 years. Only 2%, just 2%. So insurance is here to just be able to offer you that long-term view. It's been clearly articulated by the panelists that if you want to get rich, it's a long-term game. It's not really just about tomorrow. But the final parting remark, I think, for me would be now to the employers and the institutions. As we are getting these young people on board into the employment world, can we now start fronting insurance as one of the benefits? You know, you get, how I wish that years ago, when I started work, I had been told one of the benefits we give is probably to sponsor you for this particular policy and this. I'll probably be having already cashed out about 100 million or so. So we need to start empowering people with the right financial literacy. We have Madame Gloria here who could easily speak to the different employers as well. But it is very key that we tap into the young generation when they still can be able to make these particular critical decisions. And insurers as advisors are here, banks are here to just offer that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Julius, Christmas. Yes, we want to talk about the goodies coming through as you give us your parting shots too.
Thanks, Mildred. I think it goes beyond the summers during Christmas time. If you look at the diaspora statistics today, actually most of the inflows are coming from the Middle East corridor. And if we are to tackle this subject going forward, that is a corridor we have to tackle and ensure they have saving products available to them. Already we have a database, a large database for diaspora in the Western world, North America, Europe, but I believe, and those are the summers, the other group also needs to be catered for as well. And we've been working with UAP to come up with standard products to reach out even before Christmas to a lot of these customers so that they can start consuming these products. In terms of my parting shots, I think over 70% of Ugandans are below the age of 30. And you cannot, I mean, people my age won't change easily. They think about brick and mortar and everything my friend Sam has mentioned here. It's not very easy to change their mindset, even if they are talking to bankers and so on. I think that's, I won't call it a lost generation, but that may not change easily. And if you look at a lot of the successful business communities, if I'm talking about Jewish community, the Indian community, they learn saving products when they are teenagers. They don't come, they don't encounter these products late in life. So I think one of the things that has to be done very well by both banking and insurance community is to start reaching out to the lower levels of society, the younger age, even below the age of 21, so that they learn these products, because a lot of Ugandans who are learned and literate are financially illiterate, unfortunately, and that is where we are. So we have to save the next generation, the 70%, I think. That is where the work is. And I believe on the side of insurance, one of the ways, just to respond to Jenna, we can improve penetration is because there is trust in banking. Customers come to a bank with a long-term view. That's why someone takes a 5-year loan. They don't come to a bank with a sport view. A lot of the insurance customers have a sport view approach. So the fusion of banking and insurance, bank insurance, I think can go a long way in terms of migrating actually banking customers who have a long-term view on banking to take a similar long-term view on insurance products and also build the same levels of trust. So I believe that is what will really be very impactful. And for the listeners, if you are in my generation and you lost the plot, I would encourage you at least pass on the information to the young generation, enroll them, onboard them, teach them investment products. It's not all lost. And your real success will be how the group you've brought up actually has embraced and adopted a lot of the savings products away from what we know, which is land and rentals, which is a very simplistic view on life. I think we need to help the young generation also adopt best saving practices.
Okay. I still believe it's not too late, but ladies and gentlemen, it's time against us, but this conversation would have definitely continued. Are you investing? Do you have a plan for that investment? For the businesses that didn't do well in COVID-19, did you know that there is a 10%, just 10% interest rate, and you'll be able to get a loan from Postbank, and many of those are actually fixed. You won't have to think about, oh, what is the central bank rate, and then what is the next rate that the banks will be bringing through. It's been an impactful discussion, and we can continue with this on social media, the hashtags that get empowered and hashtag to Tambule Fena. It's only time that is breaking us. I want to say a special thank you to Professor Samuel Sejaka for coming through, to you, Mr. Julius Kaketo, to Andrew, Gloria, my namesake here. Thank you so much for coming through. That was powerful. I think, yeah, we'll go in the corner and have an invoice for Mr. Tony Mudola here. He will be receiving his invoice. And then to you, Jonan, I think it's very, very true that we can't have a span of more than a decade and we have no penetration above 1%. And yet this is a product that we need to be taking up. I agree with you that if it wasn't for health insurance, not many people would have afforded a very good health services. So we need to think broadly about this. And I think Mr. Kaketo is the one who mentioned it, or Professor Samuel, that government needs to be deliberate about having insurance, and especially health insurance, as compulsory. That is very true. Well, this is just the beginning of the conversations, more about some of the aspects and the products that we talked about from UAP, Old Mutual, or Postbank that you would like to know. Just move to their offices and get all this information. But for this particular financial wellness class, we'll be waiting for another one. This one comes to an end right here. My name is Mildred Tohaisa, but like I said, let's continue with the questions. I know that Postbank is online, UAP, Old Mutual is online. So if you have those questions, send them in. The answers will continue coming through. But for this, we bring it to a close at this particular point in time. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you and good evening.